Hello, dear viewer, it's me, the man on your screen. I'm gonna rank a bunch of sophomore albums from every artist I care to include. That's mostly rock, metal, and hip-hop, but I sprinkle in some other stuff. I get a little silly here today. Here are our tiers. I think they're self-explanatory. And with that little preamble out of the way, let's dive right in, shall we? Limp Bizkit's Significant Other, and we begin our list with with a whimper. This shit sucks. Limp Bizkit as a whole is pretty mediocre. I don't hate the guys, but they don't bring very much to the table, to be honest with you. I had their debut in the D tier. I have this album in the D tier. Black Country New Road, Ants from Up There. Stupendously good album, and sadly, these guys' last great project. Their next one's alright, but this one is absolutely excellent. Really devastating record, but masterfully done and incredibly unique. It's still early, but I'm gonna put it in the GOAT tier. Blur, Modern Life is Rubbish. This is good, but this is not great. I'm not a massive Blur fan, but I'm not one to hate just to hate. Some great songs on here, I would say, but also several misses here as well. Textbook B tier. My Chemical Romance, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. Excellent album. I was heavily let down with their debut album, but this is really great shit, man. Top to bottom, there's really no misses on here. The Ghost of You, one of my favorite songs from these guys ever. Helena, an obvious classic song. I'm going S tier. Deftones, Around the Fur. I might as well be named Deftones fan 323, but biases aside, this shit bangs, man. Some absolute classics on this album. I think this album's legendary. There's a couple songs I don't love here, but the good heavily outweighs the bad. I don't think it's very close. Top of the S tier. Coldplay, A Rush of Blood to the Head. Coldplay, they're alright, I guess. I've always thought of them as a strong 7 out of 10 band throughout their entire career. I don't feel much different about this project. It's got some hitters, but it's also got some stinkers. Top of the B tier. Freaky Styley, The Red Hot Chili Peppers. Know one thing, dear viewer, I will never, and I mean never, miss an opportunity to dunk on the Red Hot Chili Peppers. This shit is ass. So ass that I considered cutting this from the video, but I couldn't forego the opportunity to bring up the song Catholic Schoolgirls Rule, which is just poetic beauty when paired with Anthony Kiedis' multiple sexual assault allegations. Fuck Anthony Kiedis. Fuck this album. Youch tier. Elliott Smith's self-titled record. Man, this shit is just miserable. Not in a bad way. Miserable in the sense that I feel like Vegeta in the rain while listening to this album. It's too sad to talk about anymore. Behind the Hot Girl in the S tier. Ween, The Pod. I struggle to rank these guys because on one hand, some songs in here are borderline terrible, but on the other hand, pork roll, egg, and cheese, you know what I mean? I'm going center of B. Eminem, The Slim Shady LP. I don't know what the fuck Infinite is, but it ruined my master plan to give Eminem a high position on this tier list. This is not quite as good as the Marshall Mathers LP, but it has a bit of charm to it, I would say. My issue is the lack of absolute classics on here. There's My Name Is, but the rest of this is good, but kind of forgettable when mixed in with shit like, Come On Everybody. I'm gonna put it behind Ween in the B tier. Green Day, Kerplunk. This isn't so bad. It's not so good either, but there's a couple hitters on here. Dominated Love Slave is a really, really bad song, though. It evens out at the C tier. Have a Nice Life, The Unnatural World. This album had a incredibly tough task ahead of it, and that was to somehow surpass the beauty that was their debut album, Death Consciousness. Did they succeed? God, no, but this is still pretty good. In a vacuum, I like this a lot. It's just really hard not to compare it to their debut project. Really strong first half, and a pretty strong second half. I'm thinking A tier. Van Halen 2. This isn't quite as good as their debut, but it's not apples to oranges. I don't see much of a reason to revisit this project ever again, to be honest. It's pretty alright. It just doesn't do anything exceptionally well, I wouldn't say. Back at the C tier. Alice in Chains, Dirt, My Glorious King. This is my personal favorite grunge album of all time, and I think it's one of the greatest albums recorded in the 90s with ease. Incredibly consistent album, 0 skips on here, I would say. And it's got some absolute cult classics on here, like Wood and Down in a Hole. It makes me happy, it makes me sad, it makes me want to put my head through a fucking wall. I'm going to put it at the top of the GOAT tier. Weezer, Pinkerton. I talked about Dirt for too long, and I have to make up for lost time. This is good. Back of the A tier. Gorillaz, Demon Days. This is pretty fire, man. Several hood classics on here and no truly bad songs. I like this a lot. I'll probably listen to this again. Back of the S tier. Foo Fighters, The Color and the Shape. Why did he spell color like that? He's not British. Why would he do that? Silly Dave. This is probably going to hurt some of you. This is alright at best. It's got some incredibly heavy hitters, I acknowledge that, but a lot of this album is kind of forgettable, and not should I revisit very often at all. Top of the B tier. Audio Slave, Out of Exile. You ever see that picture of Daniel and the cooler Daniel in the yearbook? This album and their self-titled project mimic that shit flawlessly. They're eerily similar, Strong first half and an incredibly weak second half. This is just worse in both ways. Weaker bangers and stinkier stinkers here. Back of the seats here. Queen 2. This is much better than their debut at least, but it's not much more than that. Kind of just boring stuff here, man. I don't really know what else to say. Behind Van Halen, in the seats here. Jay-Z, In My Lifetime, Volume 1. This kind of stinks, and my god, I Know What Girls Like featuring P. Diddy might just be the worst aging song ever. Put that shit right up there with Catholic Schoolgirls Rule. This isn't nearly as bad of a project as the Chili Peppers, though. No way. Back of the seats here. Pearl Jam Versus. This is a pretty underrated grunge project, fellas. It's not as good as 10, and I would even say far from it, but this shit is consistently solid stuff on here. Some great songs at the beginning and the end here. A little silly in the middle of the album, I would say. But it's damn good. Top of the 8 here. Joy Division, Closer. Dread Incarnate again, but it's really damn good. I've got to take a break after this one, my god. Super depressing shit, but it's a very cohesive project and an incredibly powerful album, I would say, especially towards the end of this project. Above My Chemical Romance in the S tier. Kanye West, Late Registration. I'm going to ignore all the heinous shit he's done in the past couple of years because that makes my job easier. This album is phenomenal. Not quite as good as The College Dropout, I wouldn't say, but this is pretty damn good. I'm going GOAT tier. Behind My Precious Baby Dirt. Drake, Take Care. If there is a Drake album in existence that doesn't suck balls, it's gotta be this one. This has all the big Drake tracks, it's got Marvin's Room, it's got a super funny Kendrick Lamar feature in hindsight, but it's also got an unbearable amount of filler tracks, especially in the second half of this hour and 20-minute long project. Back of the B tier. R.E.M. Reckoning. Pretty solid. That's all I have written here. Behind Dave Grohl in the B tier. The Cranberries, No Need to Argue. It has the Zombie song. That one's pretty cool. The rest of this has been completely removed from my memory. It's not bad by any means, but it's just not for me, I wouldn't say. Behind Coldplay, in the B tier. King Crimson, In the Wake of Poseidon. A borderline unprecedented fall-off between their debut and this record. This has maybe a third of the charm their debut had. The title track is pretty good, but the rest of this I would describe as mediocre. These fellas don't miss on the album march, though. That shit's pretty fire. Behind Green Day, in the C tier. Death, Leprosy. This shit's pretty fire, man, I won't lie. The title track is an absolute banger, and there's no real skips on here, I wouldn't say. Top to bottom, good shit, with a couple hitters. A recipe for the top of the A tier. Fishman's, Kingmaster George. I like these guys a lot. Rest in peace, King. This album is alright, I think. Track 7 is incredible, and it reminds me a lot of their future work, but the rest of this project is very, very hit or miss. I'm gonna put it at the top of the C tier. Mr. Bungle, Disco Volante. This is pretty fucking great. Most Mike Patton projects end up being at least interesting, and this one is just that. A couple misses here and there, but I'll listen to this again. This was a very fun record, I would say. Above Weezer, in the A tier. The Strokes, Room on Fire. I like to consider myself a stroker, but what the hell was I thinking with that one, my god. This album is pretty great. Not nearly as good as Is This It, but a couple tracks on here are absolutely excellent. Top of the A tier. The Smiths, Meat is Murder. Only 9 songs on this project, and when that's the case, you've got to have 1, maybe 2 misses at most, and that's just not the case with this record. There's 3. That's not that many either, but 33% of the album being kind of mid makes me rub my chin at least a little bit. Behind Coldplay, in the B tier. Tyler, the Creator, Goblin. Don't let the Tyler fans fool you, dear viewer, this shit is really bad. Every song except She is a song I would rather slam my head into a wall than listen to. The lyricism here is actually just straight up horrible. Top of the Youch tier. Incubus, Science. I mentioned this album in my debuts video and perhaps gave Incubus fans a bit too much optimism on my take here. This album is good, but I don't think I'd call it great. A couple absolutely excellent tracks on here, but the rest of this is kind of forgettable to me. I'm a Morning View man, if you must know. Behind Mr. Bungle, in the A tier. Third Eye Blind, Blue. It hurts my heart what I'm about to do, just know that. I was finally able to give these guys a W in my debuts video, but now I must tear them right back down. Tracks 1 through 5, I'd give a strong thumbs up. Tracks 6 through 12, I'd give a solemn thumbs down. And track 13, I'm gonna give a passionate double thumbs down. Really weak track there. Above Audioslave, in the C tier. The Roots, Do You Want More? No, I don't want more. It's not so bad, a vast improvement from their debut, but it's still not reaching their peak, by any means, I wouldn't say. Above Ween, in the B tier. Primus, Sailing the Seas of Cheese. Please note I say their name wrong on purpose, as to spite their fans. This isn't as good as their debut, but damn it, this is still pretty good. Maybe I was wrong in my hatred for Primus. No, I'm not wrong. Pretty consistently good project, though, as much as it hurts me to admit. Back of the A tier. The Jimi Hendrix Experience, Axis, Bold as Love. Pretty great stuff right here. You can't go wrong with a single Jimi Hendrix album. Excellent top to bottom. Behind My Chemical Romance in the S tier. Frank Ocean, Blonde. This is an incredible record. For a long time I didn't understand the love for Frank Ocean, but I find this album to be like a fine wine. It's pretty mid when you're a teenager, but an incredible album to relate to as you get older. Very beautiful record. Above Kanye in the GOAT tier. Linkin Park, Meteora. This is kind of just a worse hybrid theory, I think. I'm sorry to disappoint, but I don't think this is that excellent of an album. I'd say it's good, bordering on great perhaps, but Linkin Park has never really hit me as hard as it's hit a lot of other people. Behind Death in the A tier. Metallica, Ride the Lightning. Now this is an album deserving of the hype. The end of the glorious Dave Mustaine era of Metallica, and they ended on a fucking bang. I shouldn't have to say too much here, hopefully. One of the greatest metal records in history. Above Blonde in the GOAT tier. MF Doom, Food. Man, this is one of the greatest hip-hop records of all time. Incredible lyricism as always from this guy, but the shit is also just really fun. It doesn't take itself too serious, and it just delivers an incredibly fun project. Above Kanye in the GOAT tier. Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad City. This album is in discussions for the greatest album of all time, so it's a shoo-in for the GOAT tier. I'm gonna put it at the top, to be honest. I wasn't going to, but the more that I think about it, it's that legendary, man. I may prefer Dirt personally, but I don't think it's a better album. No way. Top of the GOAT tier. Arctic Monkeys' Favorite Worst Nightmare. It's always a bad day when I have to give the Arctic Monkeys a W, but today is one of those bad days. This is pretty good. It's not as good as their debut, I wouldn't say, no way, but this is pretty solid. Behind Incubus in the A tier. Paramore, Riot. To quote Sputnik Music, whoever the fuck that is, I'm not ashamed to say it. This was the first album to win my heart and save my soul with rock and roll. I wouldn't go nearly as far as that guy, but I thought that was pretty funny. This is decent enough. It's got a couple hits, but it's also undeniably got a couple misses, I would say. Behind Dave Grohl in the B tier. Aerosmith, Get Your Wings. Don't care. Top of D tier. I'm also going to move Ants from up there down to the top of the S tier. It makes me a little uncomfortable being that high. I don't like it up there. Tool, Anima. I know my fellow Tools were upset about my undertow placement in the last video, but know that as the youngins say, I'm going to stand on business. Anima, on the other hand, is one of the greatest things I've ever heard. Top to bottom, this shit is truly a magical project, man. Tool truly found their sound with this project. I'm going to go above Dirt in the GOAT tier. Muse, Origin of Symmetry. This is pretty great stuff. Plug-in Baby is an excellent song. No real misses on this project at all, to be honest. Really strong project from the guys, and I'm kind of a hater. Back of the S tier. My Bloody Valentine, Loveless. Guys, I just don't get this one at all. I don't like it. I honestly think it sucks. I don't see the vision. I understand its importance in the shoegaze scene, but in the vacuum that I live in, I don't really enjoy this that much. I'm sorry. Behind Incubus, in the A tier. David Bowie, David Bowie. Not to be confused with David Bowie. David Bowie is also a pretty terrible album. This one at least has one incredible track in Space Oddity, unlike the debut album's baffling statistic of 0 good songs. Everything else here is pretty mediocre though. I'm going top of D tier. Korn, Life is Peachy. Much worse than their debut album. I mean, this isn't completely terrible, but there's not really much worth revisiting here at all. It does have a feature from my glorious king Chino Moreno, but to be honest, that shit kinda sucks too. Behind Third Eye Blind in the C tier. Nas, It Was Written. Also much worse than his debut record, but in a completely different way. This is still a really strong album, to be honest. Some absolute classics on here. Thumbs up from me. Behind Jimi Hendrix in the S tier. 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral. This is probably the most haunting album I've ever listened to. I'm not really a fan of this genre of music, being industrial metal, but the lyricism and the storytelling on this album is almost unparalleled. Truly one of the greatest albums I've ever heard, but not something I really listen to very often. I'm torn between this one and Anima, but I think I'm going to give the slight edge to Anima. But still GOAT tier. Nirvana, Nevermind. That's 2 back-to-back easy and free GOAT tiers here, fellas. It's iconic, it's got the hits, it's got the deep cuts, it's cool to like Nirvana, and I want you to think I'm cool. I'm going behind Dirt in the GOAT tier. Pierce the Veil, Selfish Machines. You know I've never been wrong before, but this time I was wrong. It's not the classiest stuff, it's not beautifully written, and I wouldn't even call it interesting or ambitious, but this isn't so bad. I was a hater, but if you don't take this project seriously at all, it's a fun album top to bottom. B tier, behind Eminem. The Cure, 17 Seconds. Sometimes I think we're all just pretending to like The Cure, but then I hear songs like Forest, and I'm reassured that that's not the case. Their debut is pretty bad stuff, but this is a solid enough project. Obviously not their peak, but a sign of what's to come for sure. I'm thinking B tier, right above Ween. A Perfect Circle, 13th Step. I'm conflicted here. The highs of this album are peak Maynardy goodness, but the lows of this album are peak James Iha assness. Several stinkers on here, far too inconsistent for the S tier. I'm going above Weezer in the A tier. Wu-Tang Clan, Wu-Tang Forever. A massive step down from their debut, but I'm sure you already knew that. It's not a bad project, but there's a crazy amount of holes in an almost 2-hour long project. A lot of fat could have been trimmed here, probably the last 12-ish songs, to be honest. The first disc is pretty good, though. I'm thinking B tier, behind Paramore. Dr. Dre, 2001. It says a couple classic tracks on here, and then a cataclysmic amount of mediocre tracks. With the cherry on top, Pause for Porno, which, if you're unfamiliar, is a minute and a half of moaning. I don't know about you, dear viewer, but I prefer my albums uninterrupted by 90 seconds of moaning. Regardless, the hits are great here, behind Weezer in the A tier. Gojira, The Link. Last time I said their debut was their weakest album, and that was incorrect. This is their weakest album. There's not much here, to be honest. The only song I'd revisit is Remembrance. The other 40 minutes are completely forgettable. Above Green Day in the C tier. Queens of the Stone Age, Rated R. This is pretty fire. I don't have too much to say other than that. It's not a world-shattering record, but a very solid one top to bottom. Behind Pearl Jam in the A tier. Megadeth, Peace Sells, but who's buying? Perhaps it was me that was buying a super average project. No, this is pretty great. One of my favorite Megadeth records for sure. Pretty consistently good shit on here. Peace Sells, also a phenomenal song. I love that one a lot. Behind Linkin Park in the A tier. Faith No More, Introduce Yourself. A very slight step up from the last record. In my debuts video, I was under the impression that Mike Patton was on that record and snuck them out of the Youch tier because he's a pretty cool guy. He wasn't on that record, and he's not on this one. This sucks, and there's no one here to save it. We Care a Lot is still a pretty good song, but everything else here is pretty boring. Behind David Bowie in the D tier. U2, October. Two stinkers back to back here, same exact case, to be honest. There's one pretty good track in Gloria, and a metric fuck ton of ass following it. This album just slowly gets worse until you realize 41 minutes have passed. D tier, behind Faith No More. A Tribe Called Quest, The Low End Theory. A little palate cleanser after those last two stinkers, we have one of the greatest hip-hop records of all time. I don't have much to say, it's unfathomably good. To quote user Megacannon on albumoftheyear.com, amazing. I haven't said anything that others haven't said already. Behind Nevermind in the GOAT tier. Radiohead, The Bends. I love this album a lot. I don't think it's particularly incredible stuff, especially when you compare it to the rest of their discography. But this is really, it's great top to bottom. It's got one of my favorite Radiohead songs ever in Street Spirit, and also has one of my least favorite Radiohead songs ever in Sulk. It evens out, I'm thinking S tier, behind My Chemical Romance. Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire. This album makes me want to beat up my local government official, but not nearly as much as their debut did. Bulls on Parade, absolutely one of the most fucking raw songs I've ever heard in my life, as is Down Rodeo. This whole project is pretty damn great. Behind the Bends, in the S tier. Sleep Token, This Place Will Become Your Tomb. I missed the opportunity in my debuts video to absolutely fucking dunk on these frauds, and I will never let that opportunity go by me twice. These guys reek. D tier above U2. Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique. Who said white boys can't rap? This is pretty great shit, man. There's not a lot of holes on this project. I thoroughly enjoyed my time listening to this. Underrated stuff, at least within my generation. Back of the S tier, what are you going to do about it? Avenged Sevenfold, Waking the Fallen. I wouldn't describe myself as a hater, but I do think these guys are fairly overrated. They don't do much for me. This album doesn't do much for me. It's got a couple standout tracks, I suppose, but I probably won't ever listen to this shit again. Behind Green Day in the C tier. Biggie Smalls, Life After Death. Another rap record that could have vastly improved with a bit of trimming. There's a lot of good here, a fuck ton of it, to be honest, but there's also at least 5 stinkers. The good does outweigh the bad, but it hurts to know how good this album could have been with a bit of fat trimming. Above the Beastie Boys in the S tier. Slow Dive, Souvlaki. This is good shoegaze, not that loveless hullabaloo. This makes me want to kill myself, but I'm at least listening to good music while I'm thinking about it. Devastating album, ethereal in a way. This is great stuff. Behind Elliott Smith in the S tier. Hole, Live Through This. I got a comment on another one of my videos questioning my hatred for Courtney Love, thinking I was joking about her killing Kurt Cobain, so I'd like to set the record straight here. I think she did that shit. Regardless, as much as it pains me to admit, this is a pretty solid album. There's no real heavy hitters on here, but I'll admit I enjoyed this. Behind Weezer in the A tier. Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory. This is pretty great stuff, guys. It's got some absolute classics on it, and it also has 2 swamp songs. Both are ass. That's pretty impressive. The hits heavily carry this project, but the hits are really damn good. A tier, behind Incubus. Godspeed You, Black Emperor. Lift your skinny fists like antennas to heaven. I mean, this is either the greatest thing I've ever heard, or it's right up there. Only 4 songs on this project, each one about 20 minutes long, and each one a genuinely surreal and unique experience that I can't even compare to anything else in music. There's really not another project like this. Absolutely incredible record, top of the GOAT tier. The Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream. Now that last album may be the single greatest piece of music objectively, but to sprinkle in a bit of my bias, this is one of my personal favorites ever. I'm not really sure why, to be honest, but this album truly just crushes me in a way that very few albums can. Lyrically, it's some of the best shit I've ever heard, and musically, it's absolutely incredible as well. Factoring in my bias, I'm going behind Good Kid, Mad City in the GOAT tier. Slipknot, Iowa. This is pretty solid, too. I was under the impression that after their self-titled record, Slipknot nosedived into mediocrity for the next 20 years, but that's only the case right after this album. This is solid stuff top to bottom. I might even listen to this again. Behind the Arctic Monkeys in the 8th tier. Travis Scott, Bird in the Trap, Sing McKnight. And now for the most unprecedented fall-off in this video, Travis, the Travie Patty Scott. This shit blows. Not the whole way through. I'd say there's 3 or 4 songs here worth listening to. Perhaps throwing on the playlist, but everything else here could put me to sleep within seconds, I would say. Back of the C tier. The Doors, Strange Days. Perhaps the most perplexing album cover I've ever seen in my entire life. Seriously, look at this thing for a second. Look at this cast of characters. The music itself, on a far more important note, is really damn good here. Not as good as their first album, but there's some real phenomenal stuff here as well. Most notably, People Are Strange and When the Music's Over. 2 phenomenal tracks. I liked it a lot. S tier, behind Jimi Hendrix. Soundgarden, Louder Than Love. It truly pains my heart that I must once again shit all over Soundgarden, but what am I going to do? This isn't nearly as bad as their debut record, but it still kind of stinks. There's a couple decent tracks buried beneath a massive pile of ass, and to be completely honest, it's just not worth digging through all that ass. C tier, behind Third Eye Blind. Stone Temple Pilots, Purple. And now for a beautiful grunge palate cleanser, my precious baby boy Purple. I prefer Core to this record, if only slightly, but this is still a really goddamn fun record. I don't like Pretty Penny, but every other song here is a fucking banger. Truly, an unfathomably underrated grunge record. Listen to this if you haven't, please. S tier, Behind the Doors. System of a Down, Toxicity. If you ask me what I think the greatest metal record of all time is, this would probably be my answer, because I would be too afraid to say Lateralis and admit that I'm a Tool fan. This is some of the most raw, most fun, most impactful music I've ever heard. I have nothing bad to say about this album. I'm going GOAT tier, above Kendrick Lamar. The Beatles with the Beatles. Somehow worse than their debut. This is also pretty stinky stuff. The Beatles seem to get good at about their 6th album, and not a goddamn second sooner. There's not many redeeming tracks here, but there are some absolutely terrible songs if that's what you're into. Little Child, most notably. That shit is really, really bad. Behind fucking Sleep Token in the D tier. God, what have I done? The Microphones, It Was Hot, We Stayed in the Water. This is pretty great stuff. A couple sleepers here, but a couple seriously phenomenal tracks as well. I had fun here when I wasn't inconsolably sobbing. A tier, Behind the Strokes. Guns N' Roses, GNR Lies. This is really, really bad stuff. Almost unbearably bad. It's hard to describe how bad this is, so all I can do is genuinely warn you to avoid this album. The last song on this might be the worst song I've ever heard, and I've heard almost all of the Red Hot Chili Peppers discography. Patience is good. Everything else here is pretty bad. I'm giving this last place. Misfits, Earth AD, Wolf's Blood. It's alright. I'm tired, man. B tier, Behind Pierce the Veil. Pink Floyd, A Saucer Full of Secrets. The only decent Pink Floyd album featuring both Syd Barrett and David Gilmour, but that's actually all the praise I have. A Clash of the Greats that ended up being pretty mediocre. This album it's fun, I guess, but it's just not very good. Not very high in the Pink Floyd catalog, no way. Behind Gojira in the C tier. Mos Def, The New Danger. Another cataclysmic fall-off here. Mos Def's second project might not even be half as good as his debut. This one has 1 or 2 good songs on here, but the rest are either agonizingly bad, like in the case of The Easy Spell, or just very mediocre. It's not worth a listen, I wouldn't say. Behind Bowie in the D tier. Black Sabbath, Paranoid. And now on the complete opposite side of the coin, two back-to-back banger records from Black Sabbath. This is incredible. It's iconic. It helped mold the metal genre. It's got War Pigs right above Metallica in the GOAT tier. The Smile, Wall of Eyes. Tom York's second appearance on this list and his significantly weaker one. This isn't bad by any means. I really like Bending Hectic as a song, but a lot of this is just okay. B tier, above Pierce the Veil. Opeth, Morning Rise. This record only has 5 songs and is still an hour long. That's not a bad thing, I'm a tool, but it is a bad thing when 1 or 2 of those songs isn't that good. And that's the case here with the second and third tracks. They're alright, but the latter of those 2 is 20 minutes long, and you just can't be mediocre for 20 minutes long. That's a really long time. B tier, behind Pierce the Veil. I'm sure that's going to make someone freak the fuck out. Bush, Razorblade Suitcase. Swallowed is a super good song. That's it for the praise. As for the criticism, the other 55 minutes suck asshole. That's all I have. Behind Faith No More in the D tier. Led Zeppelin 2. This is pretty good. I like most Led Zeppelin albums, and this is no different. It's not their best work, but I could definitely listen to this album without writhing in agony, unlike that last project from Bush. Behind Jimi Hendrix in the S tier. Creed, Human Clay. Some guy in my comments has been asking me to include Creed in these videos, and against my better judgment, here it is. This album sucks. Behind Audioslave in the C tier. And with that, dear viewer, I've ranked every single Sophomore album that I care to rank. 93 albums today. I thought that was plenty, but I'm sure I missed Little Timmy's favorite band, so feel free to let me know, and I might add them to the next one, maybe. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more music videos. That's videos about music and not music videos. You know what I mean. And peace.